Shut up and sit down.
Howdy guys, this is Andy from Big Mac's Workshop and Painting Studio, and it's a Dire Avenger today. It's been a long time since I painted one of these little dudes, so I'm doing something a little bit different. It's going for more of a grey blue pattern armour. So I've started a base with GW's McCrag Blue, getting a nice quality coat on there, plus all the armour work, leaving the weapon and helmet to do something a little bit different, as on the classic models they're usually a very different colour as well. So I wanted to keep that feature within this paint palette. So after McCrag Blue's gone down, I've mixed a bit of a fang, starting to paint the highlight in from around about the 2/3 mark, and make it really trying to accentuate the round shape of the armour. It's very striking, the Eldar armour form, so I really wanted to make the most of it. So now what I'm doing is just blacking out the gems and all the different details on the armour, just to give me something to work with so I can see the other sections. Now this is just a black prime I'm using. I use Vallejo's black acrylic primer, but any regular black will work. It's just to allow me to see where all the different shapes are and give me a better idea of where the highlights and things should go. So now I've added some more fang. This is just pure fang now, starting from about a halfway point on the armour plates. And I'm only really focusing on the armour plates. The inlay is going to be dealt with at the end with various washes and the after effects. But I'm really trying to keep the highlights going in a round, smooth shape, making the most of those really cool smooth plates that the Eldar tend to wear. So now it is Drakenhof Nightshade, and I've thinned this right down. I'm just going to lay it on the entire thing. It's going to add a bit of depth into the armour sections itself. It's also going to start running into the recesses between the plates to sort of start colouring the body weave, or whatever you want to call it, going between the armour plates. It gives it a bit more detail, a bit more depth. So now this is a mixture of the fang plus rust grey, starting a little bit off the halfway point now, really starting to just start working on the upper areas of maybe the upper third of the armour sections, really starting to make those highlights really start to pop, and I'm really going to bring these to a nice crisp finish, because the Eldar armour have got a lot to work with. They do actually make quite a striking army. After that is pure rust grey, and we're just starting to work on the most obvious bright points of the armour now. As you can see, it's quite a bluey grey colour, and I think it's quite nice. It's quite different from what you'd usually expect to see. It wasn't exactly what I was going for initially, but I do like the effect in the end. As you can see, I'm just building them highlights right at the finest points of the armour. We're still going to go another layer or so higher, but it really does make the difference when you build them highlights up gentle. So this is a mixture of rust grey and Fenris grey, and I'm starting to really focus these on the most upper edges of the highlighted areas. I'm going to go another layer up, but this is just to soften the gradient up a little bit, and you got a nice highlight at the end. And finally, onto the most extreme points and most pronounced edges. It is pure Fenris grey, and you can see on that shoulder plate there, as I'm just starting to bring that highlight up a little bit more. It's really starting to bring the model together. Now, as you can see, I'm using a really narrow brush at this point. This is a 00. It's just allowing me to get the accuracy I need to make those highlights really come together. Now all I've got to do is be able to figure out how to do this across an entire army rather than a single figure. Anyway, onto the wash again. Again, this is another thinned down Drakenhof Nightshade. Getting it all over the model. It just adds a bit more blue to the colour as well. And obviously adding the depth into the recesses and also into the body weave between the armour plating. So you get that nice transitional colour between the dark and the light. It really does soften the highlights up a little bit if you get a full, as long as you use it really thin wash. So onto the armour, the helmet and the weapon. Now this is walnut by scale 75. Getting a nice base across the helmet, all across the weapon as well, and it's just a really cool colour. So what I wanted to go for was more of a creamy bone colour than a traditional white. Obviously it makes more sense on the weapon itself, with it being a wraith bone. And for the first highlight on this, I've added some bone white by Vallejo into the walnut, and it's just going to soften that colour up nicely. And we're going to start picking those lines out and really start to make the colour blend together ever so well. So I've added a bit more bone white into the mixture now. So I'm just going to start building up that colour gently. Now it's going a little bit too white, but I do rectify this at a later stage. But it's still a good way to go. Just bring up that colour nice and steadily, and you're going to get a really cool bone effect right at the end. As you can see, I'm just quite liberally painting it in there, painting the highlights across all the detail work. I'm trying to leave a little bit of a darker colour as well, just to allow that transition to start to show a little bit. So again, some more bone white into the mixture, and I'm starting to feather it out into more towards the edges now, and just keeping it nice and steady. We want to leave some of that dark showing through, so you get that transition. And an Angrax Earthshade, really thin down as always, and getting it laid all the way across all the detail work. It just sort of brings some of the shading together. You can do it, provided you thin it down enough, you can do it a couple of layers, build up the effect you're after. So now onto the robes, and this is Corn Red by GW. And I'm going across all the robes, all of the weird little tassels, any of the strapping is going to go into the, and also onto the crest of the helmet as well. So what I've done now, so I wasn't totally happy with the mix, is I've added a three-way mix of Iroko, bone and walnut. Now the Iroko is just going to yellow it up a little bit, and that allows the gun to look a bit more bone-like, adds a little bit more colour to it, but I'm only putting it into the more shaded areas just to change the colour tone a little bit up, a little bit more. And I'm just adding a little bit more of the I've added some ivory into the mixture now to really brighten it up, and this is going to be sort of a final highlight, really working towards the edges. Now as you can see, the helmet's not going right, so I'm going to remove that again shortly and paint that separate. That's going to be done exactly the same way, but I'm going to strip it and do it from afresh because I wasn't happy with the helmet. So now it's pretty much pure ivory onto the edges of the bone, just to brighten that them final highlights a little bit and really get a striking line across the edges of the weapon. As you can see, adding a little bit of yellow into the mixture, it's just made it look a bit more lifelike, a lot less pastely and dull. So I'm gonna go on to the gems now, and all the gemstones is based in Rift Green, which is scale 75 paint. Now this can be done with Dark Angels Green, I think it's still called, or Calibrate Green, one of the two. It's just a nice rich dark green. I went for green because it sort of complements the blue and the red really nicely, and it stands out nicely as well. So after the Rift Green's gone down, this is Goblin Flesh, or you could use the Warpstone Glow, and I'm doing this from about halfway up the model, halfway up the gem, but I'm painting it downwards, so it's more as if the light's coming from the top out the bottom. So all the highlights are coming from on gems come from the bottom rather than right up at the top, and it makes it look a lot more lifelike. So onto the robes again, and I've added a little bit of Mephiston red, and this is going to start picking out the highlights onto the all the robes and all the little tassels and things. It's going to brighten it up a lot, and we're going to make it look a lot more vibrant. So this is almost a full coat. It's thin down paint, so the darker sections are still showing through a little bit, but I'm trying to get a nice even coverage over all of the tassels, so you get a nice smooth coat. As you can see, this is where I've also removed the helmet. After that, it is Wazdakka Flesh, Wazdakka Red even, and this is going into the sort of, I'm starting into the depth of the recesses, but I'm also bringing it out to the top, so I'm going to have a nice even transition, even though there's not much movement in this particular robe. I'm trying to bring out as much colour of it as I can. After that, it is Wild Rider Red, and again I'm doing exactly the same thing, but on a much narrower section. I'm also using a nice thin brush for this, so I can really pick out the detail with the brighter red. So it's more of an orange and a red. It's really quite a bright colour, so as long as you keep it under control, you'll get a nice highlight on this. After that, it is Fire Dragon Bright for the final edge highlight on the on all the tassels and things. And what you're going to get is a really cool transition, really vibrant colour right at the end. So once I've done all the red work, I will be going back again and just tidying some things up. But this is just onto the little bits of metal that are left. I'm using chainmail by Vallejo. Obviously Iron Breaker or Lead Belcher works equally fine, but chainmail's a nice mid-tone. I wanted a little bit of silver work on there, but nothing over the top. Also going to highlight it up with a little bit of steel, just to brighten it up a little bit. Now, as you can see, I've also finished the gemstones, and what you do with that is you put a tiny dot of white or ivory from the top from what you would call an upper corner of the gems, and do a sort of a very thin line in the opposite corner from the bottom of white as well, and you get a sort of nice transitional light hitting effect. Lovely model to paint, even though they're quite old. I did enjoy it. It's something completely different. We don't do a lot of Xenos, and I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Eldar. So I hope you enjoyed this video. As I said, this is a final look after I've repainted the helmet, because I really wasn't happy with it. The paint had gone down too thick. So obviously, we've got some thank yous to make, as always. Huge thank yous to our patrons, which are the York Boys, Matt, Ludwig Hofbauer, Warren, D-Wack, Kit Lindquist, the Atmos of Dawn, and Mark. A massive thank yous to you guys. If you want to join us on Patreon, you get early access to all our videos. Just hit the link in the description, and that'll take you right away to our Patreon, so you can have a good look at what we've got on there. Also, thank yous to the Outpost, which is our affiliate link. If you check the link in the description, if you order anything from the Outpost and use our link, we get store credit as well as you guys. So you get nothing. It costs you nothing, and we get a little bit of help. So any help that you can offer is awesome of you guys. So please, please, at least hit like and subscribe to us. Share with your friends, and we shall catch you in the next one, guys. Okay, ta-ra.